Well, welcome, Jon Nessle, to Restitutio. So great to talk to you today.
Thank you.
I am curious about your background a little bit. Maybe you could just introduce yourself a little bit to our listeners, just to get to know you a little bit.
Alrighty. Well, I am a minister too. I'm a biblical researcher. I've been researching the Bible since, I probably started in earnest in 1975. And I've done so much research that it's coming out of my ears. I have to do something with it. So about, a decade ago, I decided that I was going to give it all away. So I enjoy working with other ministries and ministers. And even though they may differ with me a little bit, that's okay. That happens.
Mhm.
But anyway, I'm willing to share all of my research, no strings attached, for free. And because of that, God is flooding me with more. So I have so much, I just don't know what to do with it all. I've been so busy, I haven't done my website, in fact. So I need to get cracking and do my website.
Yeah.
But anyway, you had approached me about something that I wrote when I got a letter from my high school reunion.
Right. Yeah,
About
I saw you had posted about getting bullied, and what I wrote to you is that I too was bullied. This is something that, the way you talked about it, I thought was very impressive, really resonated with me. Um, Although I don't think I had anything near the experience that you had based on what you were saying. So maybe we could go back there and just share a little bit about what you were like back then and what what it
well,
what was going on.
I I was marked from kindergarten. I had a birthmark on my face. It was about the size of a quarter. I shaved when I was 5. But anyway, I also was the youngest person in my class because I just made the birthday deadline. And also, on top of all that, my father had a strange occupation. He had a television show about nature. And during the course of his broadcasts, he would imitate birds. He could imitate over 200 species of birds.
Wow.
And so, the teachers loved him because students got interested in science. After the TV show stopped, my father traveled all over the Midwest and lectured in schools. He did 2 or 3 school assemblies per day, all over the Midwest. Um, he even went to my wife's elementary school. She remembers him,
And
believe it or
you
not.
grew up in Indiana,
I grew up in Toledo, Ohio.
Ohio. Okay.
So anyway, all those things, I was teased and bullied incessantly from the moment I got on the school bus until I got off. Um, there was unfortunately a young man who had been stricken with polio, and he was the one who was the instigator of it because he was very evil. He was very angry because he just missed the polio vaccine.
Oh, wow.
And so he was crippled with polio and very angry at the world. And somehow he decided to pick on me. And then he also manipulated a big, dim witted guy that was his hands and his feet. He instigated him to do all kinds of terrible things. So my life was hell.
Right from
And
kindergarten?
yes,
Oh my goodness.
yeah, it didn't stop until uh, 10th grade. Um, I grew up. I got to be 6 feet tall. but it actually stopped the day that someone who used to bully me tried to kick me in the face, and I somehow knew what to do. I grabbed his foot and I lifted his leg above my head, and he fell down on the ground. And I could have kicked the stuffing out of him, but I didn't. I just stood over him and growled and walked away. And after that, it stopped. They said Nessle knows karate or something. I don't know, but it stopped.
But
And
I wonder if you could share, I know it might be painful, but like what are some of the specific things they did when you were a kid? Like when you say they bullied you, what does that mean? Just like calling you names, or what are we
all
talking
kinds of stuff. I remember vividly on the playground as a kindergartner, a big sixth grader hit me so hard I did a cartwheel. I remember that vividly. And oh, when I got on the school bus, when I walk up the steps, like somebody go 1, 2, 3, and they would say good morning, and they would say my hated nickname. Because my dad imitated birds, they called me Tweet Tweet. And then everything went on from there. No one would be my friend. People tried to beat me up. I didn't know how to fight, so they called me Windmill. And so I was very sad. What happened for me is I made science and music and math my friends because I knew they couldn't hurt me.
Yeah.
And instead of hanging out with friends and doing things like that, I read books. I read practically, 1/3 of the books in the elementary school library.
Wow.
And the thick ones, the ones without pictures, the biographies. And that influenced my life.
So when you were going through all this, what were you thinking about yourself, about your future, or were you just not really thinking about it at all, just getting through each day?
No, it actually forced me to grow up. It actually affected me a lot because, people today, you have these times that people go out and blow up and they shoot everybody up.
Yeah.
And they're real angry. I think had Columbine happened, that Columbine massacre, if that would have happened during my time in school, I was angry enough to imitate it. In fact, I had made explosives. I was going to be an organic chemistry major in college. I ordered recipes on how to make explosives. I made them when I was young. And I was very angry, and I was very much full of hatred. I would have terrible visions and dreams of
Revenge.
Yeah.
But
But there was
something happened, huh?
Yes. No, there was something that, later on I got involved with the Bible, and I got into a Bible fellowship, and people genuinely loved me with Christian love that I had never experienced in my entire life. And after that, I would go to every fellowship I could go to within a 50-mile radius every night. I was the faithful person. But that changed my life too. So
what were you going to say before that?
Well, see, I had emotional and spiritual scars and I dealt with them. And I think I have a message to people who have been bullied and also to bullies, because all of these events where people have been shot up, the perpetrator almost always has been bullied. They were bullied so much, made fun of, etc., and they finally blew up. And whenever that happens, sometimes there are anti-bully initiatives that are on the news, or websites to stop bullying.
Yeah.
And I have written them with what I have learned, and no one has answered. So that's why I'm glad I can talk to you about it, because maybe we can get what I've learned out there. And if it even stops one of those events, it'll be worth it.
Yeah.
But I think if this could get out, it would be a way of canceling the effects of bullying. See, most of the times that I have seen reaction to this, it's all been about stop bullying, don't bully.
Yeah.
But they don't seem to focus on the victims and what to do for them. And I was a victim, and I've written a whole bunch of stuff down, and I could talk for 2 hours. We might have to do 2 podcasts. But anyway, so I turned to science and math, and they were my friends. And the biographies of George Washington and Benjamin Franklin and Thomas Jefferson and Edison and Tesla and all the books that I read, those men changed history. They were special.
Mm-hmm.
And for some reason, that transferred to me. And I thought, maybe I'm special too. I am not what the bullies say about me. I'm not, because I didn't do anything wrong. I just reacted badly. My parents, they really couldn't help me. They just quoted me cliches. Oh, they envy you. Oh, just ignore them. But you can't ignore them.
Yeah.
And so this idea that maybe I was meant for something, maybe I was not what those bullies said I was, that's how I was able to survive.
Right.
And
you were under incredible pressure and stress and anxiety day in and day out. So
yes,
it's really kind of miraculous in a sense that you were able to find some shred of hope that
well, yeah,
you had another destiny.
God somehow was working in me, because since my strength was in my mind, I used it, because they couldn't get inside my head.
That's right.
They couldn't make me think anything. So my mind was my citadel. And what I thought was, I thought it in defiance of them. But still, I couldn't help but still be angry and sad. But I did know one thing, and that was, when I graduated from high school, I could move away and start a new life.
Yeah.
And so I looked forward to that. In fact, 3 days after I graduated, I was gone.
Didn't take you too long to get out of there.
No. But I learned 7 valuable things that I think will help anyone who is bullied from the victim standpoint. Okay. So the first one is, you are worth something. You are good. You are not what the bullies say you are. And you have, you know, everyone, I believe, is special in some way.
Yeah.
So find what that is and major on it. See, because you do have worth. Sometimes, you know, the victims are trapped, but that's only for a time. They'll if they keep persisting and not give up, then one day they'll be able to get out of it, even if it is waiting till you graduate from high school and you leave.
Yeah.
But the second thing is you want to find out what you are good at, because that's your worth. Okay. So you want to find what your song is and sing it. Okay. Find out what your cause is. And the best ticket to get out of your situation is education. Pursue your education. It's free. You're in school. Okay. So education is your best ticket to the future. Now, sometimes people think that sports is a ticket too. Okay.
Yeah.
And if you're good at sports, that's great. But there aren't as many opportunities or scholarships, you know, with sports like there is with education. So, and libraries are free. So your education doesn't have to be expensive. You don't have to have anything to hold you back, because if you get a good education and get scholarships, if you work hard, then when you leave, you'll have something to look forward to. It doesn't matter if you're rich or you're poor. See, if you are smart, if you get scholarships, people will pay for things so you can get out of where you are and leave those guys in your dust. Just leave it
something
behind.
something I notice is that there really aren't bullies in colleges. You know, I've been to a bunch of colleges, and
Yeah.
I just never saw any of it on others, or never experienced it myself. And I remember, you know, going the first college I went to, I was kind of like you, a little young for my age, so I was at college at 17, and I remember thinking to myself, where are all the bullies? You know, like they just either didn't make it here, or they grew out of it, or whatever. And I just never saw any of it. I'm sure there's got to be some here and there,
Right.
but it's very minimized compared to those younger years.
Oh yeah.
For me, it was
was
middle school. That's where I got somehow or other. I got to become the target of this one guy. I still remember his name to this day, even though it's decades later. And you know, I remember one day in math class, he just I don't even know why. He just wound up and he just punched me right in the face, and I had his glasses on, and he just knocked him right off. Like I didn't know it was coming. It was just out of nowhere. And you know, I had enough time to bend down to get my glasses on, and then the teacher walked in the room at just that moment, and there was nothing really to do about it. It was over. And it was just like, where does that come from? You know, but once you get to college, you don't see that kind of thing happening.
Right.
Thank God.
Yeah. Well, I think that bullying can be spiritual. Okay. It causes spiritual damage. But the third thing I learned, and this is a biggie, all right, and that is when you are bullied and you feel all of those strong emotions, the sadness, the loneliness, the despair, the anger, those are actually just chemical responses in your head. All right. And in reality, happiness is just a chemical experience in your brain. You've heard of chemicals like serotonin,
Yeah.
dopamine,
Mhm.
oxytocin, endorphins.
Yeah.
Okay, those are brain chemicals that make you happy. They are, let's see, you have epinephrine and non-epinephrine, those are angry chemicals, and then cortisol and adrenaline. Those are stress or fear response chemicals. They are just chemicals in your brain. They're dumb. They don't think. They cause urges. Okay. But you can still be in charge. And so to really to demonstrate this, I just ask people, have you ever had have you ever wanted to have a tantrum and you held yourself back?
Yeah.
Has that ever happened? Well, sure.
Yeah.
And well, that proves that you are able to be in charge of these chemicals in your brain. The psychological term for being in charge like that is called sublimation. It's using that energy, because that's what it is. Those urges are just energy, and you use that energy for what you want. Okay, you can redirect it. The official definition of sublimation is it's a defense mechanism that involves channeling unwanted or unacceptable urges into wholesome, admissible, or productive outlets. That's what sublimation is. And your will is the traffic cop in your head. And you can control that. And that is just energy. So you can use that energy. See, I was so angry because of everything that had happened to me. I could go from 0 to 100 in a split second. Angriness. I could be instantly angry, 100 miles an hour.
Wow.
So yeah, I was tempted many times to blow up, and I did blow up. In fact, I was very acquainted with Mr. Rage. Mr. Rage is a liar, because Mr. Rage tells you, oh, if you blow up, then you'll feel better afterwards. Well, he's a liar,
Yeah.
because you don't feel better afterwards.
No.
Because after it's all done, whatever that made you angry is still there. Plus,
Well, the
whatever damage you
consequences.
did.
Yeah.
Right, the consequences. And so the only one that's satisfied is Mr. Rage, not you. So, and then, afterwards you feel used and ashamed and tricked. You feel stupid because Mr. Rage tricked you. So we can think what we want, and we don't have to give in to those urges, to those chemicals. They are energy. So you know what you can do is you can use that energy, because it's just as easy to do a good thing as it is to do a bad thing. I mean, it takes the same amount of effort.
Right.
But the thing you got to deal with is the momentum. Because if you have a habit, if you have a momentum to think one way, then to think a different way takes a little bit of time to start thinking the different way. You understand? So, but once you get that habit changed, it's just as easy to do a good thing as it is a bad thing. So, and you know what? Sports stars do that. They channel their anger, their pain, their defeat to drive themselves to excel. Okay. Sports coaches do that.
Right.
It's like you're there in the locker room after you lost the big game. and the coach has an opportunity to teach you something, because he says, you know, you've been defeated. Do you like how you feel? Do you like it? Well, don't waste that anger. Use it. Use it to dedicate yourself to practice. Use it every time you feel like giving up. Remember it. Use it to push yourself harder. Use it to win. And then next year, come back here and we'll win. See, that's what good coaches do. They tell you how to deal with defeat. See, the movies and video games and television do not teach you how to properly deal with defeat. They glorify revenge, right?
Yeah.
Well, why did they do that? To make money. That's all.
Okay. Yeah. These things
That's
are
all.
businesses. Yeah.
Yeah. That's all. They don't do it because it's true. They do it to make money, to take advantage of you, because people are attracted to that. Now, also, when you have these urges, you've got to let it out somehow.
Right.
So
I was
that's
going to
why
ask you about
you
that.
need
So how can you let it out without the explosive,
without blowing it up.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, expressive things like music, writing, poetry, dance, art, rhetoric. Rhetoric, you can argue with people. It's pretty good. But anyway, I used music to let mine out. I became first chair, first trumpet in high school. And so I used music to let it out. So you have to find some way to let it out. See, you let it out the way you want, not the way the bullies want, not the way Mr. Rage wants.
Well, I
Okay?
think too, if a bully attacks you in some way, that garners a response, an emotional response, in a twisted way, it encourages the bully to do that again.
Right.
Because you're giving them the gratification of knowing that they have really affected you.
Well, see, bullies themselves need help. They are dysfunctional.
Mm-hmm.
And if they don't get treated, they'll have failed marriages. They will have failed job opportunities. They will fail in social interactions with people. It can be very costly. They need to figure out, why do they feel they need to bully? Okay, so they need help too. But right now, I'm concentrating on the victims.
Yeah.
See, where you can use that energy to do something good. See, and use it to dedicate yourself to study. Use it to dedicate yourself to do what you are called to do. Mm-hmm. See, now I know that's a mature thing, but unfortunately, bullies force victims to grow up sooner than they ought. And you have to deal with it, because if you don't deal with it right, it's like a balloon that gets bigger and bigger and bigger. Well, what happens to the balloon if you let it get bigger and bigger and bigger?
It blows.
It blows up, right? and it will blow up where you don't want it to blow up. It'll blow up at the wrong time. And see, if you see someone who's bullied, a victim, you need help. Okay? So if you're in middle school and you're being bullied, go to the office and ask to talk to the school counselor. Every school has a counselor. All right? Or go to your minister. your church minister and ask them for help. Tell them you're being bullied and you need to learn how to think wholesome thoughts. They will help you with that. See, if you are bullied, if you're a victim, if you're abused in any way, you need help. So go get help. You're worth it. Okay? And sometimes no one else will advocate for you. So you got to do it yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? You got to go to the school counselor. You got to go to the minister and tell them, I need help.
Did you try any of this when you were in
No,
a situation?
no.
But you wish, looking back on it, you wish you had?
Yes, absolutely. Because, see, all of these things that I'm telling you, I learned after all the bullying was over with, and after I had gotten involved with that Bible fellowship, and then I had to deal with all of those feelings, you see, because if you don't deal with them, then you can grow up to have PTSD, post-traumatic stress syndrome. Okay. You can have emotional burnout where you have no emotions at all, or you have no emotions except the bad ones, like anger.
Or you could be hypersensitive and fragile and unable to just deal with any hardship in life.
Right, right. Or, you grow up to be a criminal. I don't think anybody wants to grow up to be a criminal. I don't think anyone wants to grow up to be shot by the police.
No.
No, okay. But if you don't get this treated, any kind of abuse, then things can happen. See, with me, I utilized my scientific and logical thinking, and I applied it to the Bible, and I became very good at that. All right. I became so good at it that one minister offered to ordain me in 1998. And I told him, I said, well, I know that's going to happen for me. I know that's going to be what I'm going to do. But I'm not ready yet, because Jesus taught to love your enemies and to pray for them that despitefully use you, right? Well, when I first read that in Matthew, I thought he was nuts. I could not fathom how to do that.
Right.
And, if I was going to become a minister, I'd have to toe the company line. And that's the company line. That's company policy. Pray for your enemies. Love your enemies, pray for them that despitefully use you. And you've got to be able to counsel other people to do that. And I did not know how to do that. So I told them I still have to get some crust off of me. And so I worked on that until, I had to go pretty deep into the word to understand it. But I worked it until I understood it. And then I told him, now I'm ready to become ordained. But I've learned a whole lot about how to do that. It's so important. If someone has suffered abuse, get help, get counseling. Okay. Physical abuse, emotional abuse, sexual abuse, any kind of abuse. All right. Like you kids, from your waist to your knees is off limits. That's your body. No one should touch that. Okay. And you girls, your chest, That's your body. No one should touch that. See? So if you get abused, then you need to tell someone. You need to tell your school counselor. You need to tell your minister. So it stops. And then you get, so you can take care of it. Because you don't want things to jump you when you grow up, right? I think the one thing I wanted more than anything else was to be treated normal.
Yeah.
That's what I want. I wanted to be loved. I wanted to be accepted, and I was not. And I desperately wanted that. I wanted to grow up to be normal and to be healed. And it didn't happen for me until I got involved with the Bible and people genuinely loved me.
I wonder if you could go into that a little bit. What was that like when you first experienced real Christian love? Did you have a category for it, or was it just like totally
Well,
a foreign experience, or do you remember?
you sure vividly. I was never witnessed to. I crashed a fellowship thinking it was a drug party. And I walked up, I rang the doorbell and the girl's voice answered. And I walked up the steps and I looked over and I saw two of the most beautiful women that I'd ever seen in my entire life. They were people in the Way Corps, and they were almost like angelic. They didn't say a word, but they looked like they were so full of wisdom. They almost like had halos, literally. No, really.
Wow.
They had this glow about them. And then the third woman at the top of the steps, she didn't say hi. She immediately broke into prophecy. She spoke by inspired utterance and told me God would do A, B, and C for me. And A, B, and C were the things that I had agonized over for my entire life. And then they sat me down, they handed me a Bible, and they taught me Ephesians and Colossians, things I'd never heard. And at the end of the teaching, my roommate from college had come up too. And I found myself witnessing to him the things that I had just learned, trying to convince him to become a Christian. And so then they respected me. They didn't make fun of me. They loved me. They spoke to me. They didn't talk at me. They were genuinely interested in me. And I had never experienced that kind of attention my entire life. And I was 21 years old at that point. So yes, it's very vivid what they did for me. That's something. Changed my life. And all of that hatred and that anger and that revenge began to melt away.
Wow. That's really
Yeah.
powerful.
Huh?
That's really powerful.
Oh, I know. I mean, what God did for me, because you see, had I not done that, I was ready to do Breaking Bad. I was an organic chemistry major in college. All I needed was a chemical called 3,4,5 trimethoxy phenyl acetylnitrile. That was a chemical I needed. But the problem was, if you ordered that, then it had an automatic FBI tracer on
Right.
it. They come knocking at your door. But I had everything else I needed. I had the glassware. I was the assistant to the glass blower at college. That was my work study job. So I made all the glassware I needed for Breaking Bad. I was ready to do it. And then my life changed.
Yeah.
So, I was ready to become public enemy number one. So Wow. I know I could talk on and on about this. How much more time do we have?
Well, yeah, we should wrap it up. I want you to at least mention those other points. You said you had 7 points.
Yes.
Uh,
Yeah.
where did we get through? 4?
We got through 3 of them.
3. All right. Well, if you could just mention them, because
Okay.
this is a real
Let's
thing that
see
people
here.
face.
Okay. Let me see here. All right. What I just explained in points 1 through 3 are natural things that work for anyone, but there is a spiritual element to it. And 4, 5, and 6 are godly things that you need to do. And so you need to learn how to cast all your care on God because he cares for you. All right. And you need to pray. You need to talk to God. All prayer is talking to God.
Right.
So that's one kind. That's one of them. Then another thing is you need to learn how to forgive. Forgiveness is, it helps you more than it helps the bully. And so you need to learn how to forgive. And then number 6.
Even if the bully's not sorry for what they
Well,
did.
see, now people think they misunderstand. Since forgiveness helps you more than the person that abused you, you don't have to forgive them to their face in order for you to have the benefit. And in fact, in some circumstances, that's impossible.
Right.
They may be dead. They may be,
Or it may be dangerous to do that.
yes. Oh, well, that you put yourself in a toxic situation. Absolutely. So you don't. Now, of course, the ideal situation is you reconcile. All right. That can happen. But at first you need to just settle it between you and God. That's what forgiveness is for. And so when you finally reach the place where you can genuinely forgive, then it's like you leave, you're like on an island and you cross the bridge. The bridge is forgiveness. And when you cross that bridge, then all of the other things are left marooned on the island. See, so, and there's a whole lot of things about forgiveness I can share, maybe in a second meeting or something like that. But then the next thing is vengeance, how to deal with vengeance. Because if you try it, you'll just mess it up. And then what happens is that you cause evil, so you become an abuser. You become what you detest. See? So there's a way of dealing with vengeance, the proper way. And then finally, how to pray for your enemies. That was the most difficult thing for me to do. And I tried every which way with my biblical research to figure out if it could mean in any way to pray against my enemies. No.
Find another translation or something, but no, there's no wiggle room there, huh?
No, there's no wiggle room. I mean, I tried. I tried, but there's no wiggle room. See, us Christians, we cannot pray curses. That's what witches do.
Right.
That's not a manifestation of the Spirit. It's not a tool in our toolbox. See, so when you pray for your enemies genuinely, okay, that heals you emotionally.
Wow.
That heals you emotionally because you get to share those emotions, the genuine ones, with God. And that heals you. So,
Very good.
can I share one thing?
Yeah.
Okay. That's what the Christians were doing for Saul, the Apostle Paul. That is why Jesus appeared to him on the road to Damascus, because all the believers were praying for him. And what did Jesus tell Paul? Jesus told Paul, it's hard for you to kick against the cattle prod. The cattle prod is what they used to poke the ox to make sure the ox stayed straight. And when Jesus said that to Paul, it's like he hit himself in the head. He says, no wonder my life's been all crazy. No wonder my wife's been angry at me. No wonder my servants don't work for me right. No wonder my household's all messed up. No wonder all my relationships are all messed up. Because you know why? Angels were slamming the door in his face everywhere he went, because that's what gets energized when you obey the word and pray for your enemies. And the ideal is what happened to Paul. He was converted. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
That's
a very powerful testimony.
That is what is possible. See, and if you learn how to pray for your enemies properly, then, it's up to them. All the doors get slammed in their face and they can go either way. But that's what happens to them. Isn't that beautiful?
Yeah.
Yeah. See, that heals you too. So, there's a lot to this. I wrote a lot about it in my book on the Sermon on the Mount, and it's very deep. But the goal is for you, if you've been bullied, for you to be normal, for you to be healed, for you to not have those emotions jump you, so that one day you won't get shot dead by the police. Okay, that's very good.
We
But
don't want anyone getting shot by the police or shooting other people,
oh,
because
sure.
we're so full of bitterness.
See,
and the world
and
is
God,
such a cruel place. Yeah.
God healed me. I learned how to deal with people genuinely when I became a missionary, and God taught me how to deal with people. And also, God rewarded me in my personal relationships. I had no girlfriends in high school. I only went out on one date. All the other girls refused. And then God rewarded me. I married the most beautiful woman in Bible college. So, it's my life turned around because of what I learned and the principles that I applied. Because you have to do it. You have to turn those chemicals around, sublimate that energy, and do good. All right. And if you work on it, then you'll be healed. And that's what happened to me. But I'd be glad to come back and do another podcast and get into 4, 5, and 6, and 7 for you, and go deeper if you'd like.
Okay. Well, we'll have to end it here for today, but that's really great. We're talking to I'm talking to somebody that has lived this and has experienced this, not just a little bit, not a couple of skirmishes, but with sustained suffering over years, you know. So I think what you have to say is very valuable. And you're right. All the focus that I see is don't bully, don't bully, don't bully, but there's no consideration for, okay, well, I got bullied, now what? So this is very valuable. I appreciate your time.
Right. It can be your cause. You can do something with it. You can change the world with it.
Very good.
That's how powerful this is.
Well, thanks for talking with me today.
Well, it's an honor to be able to share with you, sir.